All right, guys, we're going to talk about the hourly pricing calculator. This is a calculator used to figure out what your hourly rate needs to be in your pricing, right? This isn't going to give you your project pricing. This is going to give you the hourly rate to charge for your time in your project pricing, right? If a project is going to cost you 10 hours, you're going to take a 10-hour project, multiply it by your hourly rate, which we're going to figure out in this calculator. And this is how it's going to work. So you're going to get the link right here. You have to copy the document. This is going to give you your own individual pricing calculator that you can copy and recreate as many times as you see fit. So right here, we're going to press make a copy. And here we go. So we're going to start by going through this, okay? Read over this stuff. It's in here for a reason. I'm not going to go through it right now with you, but this is if you don't have a profit and loss statement that you're going to have quarterly from your bookkeeper. If you have to find out what your budgets are, what your numbers are, this is how I would do that by just going through here, rent, adding your rent. So you can say $1,000, whatever, insurance, $500, property tax, whatever, right? If you're working from home. So there's a working from home, meaning your garage, your basement, your barn, whatever it is. And then this is the expenses you need to cover with the funds that you bring home. So your personal pay, the things that you can't write off, you're going to add this into here. So your groceries, memberships, subscriptions for the family, any other basics needs, and then you can just add in others here. So karate lessons, your hobbies, whatever you want to pay for with the funds you are making through the wood shop. Okay, that's the difference between these two. And then answer these the best you can. Is someone else contributing to the bills? How many hours are you spending on the tools each week? This will matter for your efficiency. How many hours are you willing to put in once you go full time if you're not already full time? If you're full time, write 40 hours, write 50 hours, write 60 hours. I'll show you why that matters in a minute. If you have a shop and you have a home to pay for, which is not the way that I suggest doing it, but depending on where you're at, you might need to live and work in the same spot, aka working out of your garage. For me, when my story, I moved into a mixed-use commercial building. My shop was on the main floor. I lived upstairs. For those of you guys who don't know my story. So if you're working from a shop and have a home, there's just an extra set of bills here, right? So you're going to have all your shop payments right in here. And then your line two is going to be your rent for your home, your home utilities, your home insurance, your property tax, all of these things. Okay, so enter this information. This will give you a good idea of what you need to bring in every month to make sure that you are covering your bills, covering your ass, right? There's going to be the money that you bring in to cover the bills in the shop, and then there's going to be the money that you need to bring home so that you can spend at home, like groceries, rent, things like that. So once you have that all figured out, we're going to go over to the hourly rate pricing calculator. I'm going to go through this entire thing. That way you guys know exactly how to use this. This is the pricing calculator that I built for myself. I use this in my shop. I did this every quarter. I went through this because things are always changing. This is something to cover your ass. This is not something for you to advertise, right? This is making sure that all your expenses are covered. Okay? Your operating expenses from the last quarter, right? So we're going to say, if inside your budget homework, it came up to, $1,500 a month, just for easy numbers. I'm going to make this a little bit more realistic here. $5,500 a month. Let's just make it exactly $500. Say it's $5,000. Okay. So your average monthly cost, if you're working from home, is $5,000. Everything in this pricing calculator is done quarterly. So I need you guys to pay attention to that. So your operating expense from last quarter books. If you don't have the books, use the expense homework that I just gave you and went through. If it's $5,000 a month, it's going to be $15,000 a quarter. Okay. Only modify what is in this color here. There's very clear notes on this. If you guys start modifying any of the other lines, it's gonna be a mess because there are calculations in there, and don't start messing with anything else other than the colors of these boxes. If you do, reach out to me because your pricing calculator will be broken and I will have to send you a new one. Not a big deal, but only modify these ones. Okay, your personal pay. This would be what you guys need for groceries. So go back to your budget homework. You can look at what you need for line 2. Your groceries, memberships. Let's say you needed $500 a month. We're gonna go back over here. That's gonna be 1,500 because we're talking about a quarter here. Every quarter we're gonna do this. How much do you want to spend on tools a quarter, right? So if you want to spend $500 a month, that's $1,500 a quarter for your tool allowance. And then your profit aim percentage. This has to be a percentage number. So if you're aiming for 10% profit margin, that will spit out a number here, okay? So if we're aiming for a 10% profit margin, that means that after all of this, we're gonna add $1,800 to the total operating expense to divide into hours. The reason why we add all these things in is because we don't want you to feel guilty for buying tools that you need for your shop. I want to create a position where you're actually taking a salary that is going to pay for the groceries. You can't write off groceries. So let's find a way to cover the groceries by adding them into your hourly rate pricing calculator here. So this is the total, right? So this will add up all of your overhead expenses, your personal pay, your tool allowance, and the profit percentage that you're looking to aim. If you're looking to aim to create a 10% profit margin, cool. If you want to make more than that, you just change it, right? You can change it to 20% if you want. See how the number just goes up? If you're just starting out with this, make it 10, make it 5, make it 1%. Profit is a habit. Make sure you are planning for it. Don't wait for the profit to just happen on its own. Force it by planning for it. Okay. So after all said and done, our bills that we need to cover every quarter is $19,800. Okay. There's 13 weeks in a quarter. 52 divided by 4 is 13. So there's 13 weeks. This is why we're doing this over a quarter and not month by month. Amount of hours in a work week. I put 40, but if you're doing this part-time, and you're only going to be able to put in 20 hours a week, put in 20 hours a week. If you're a savage and you want to work 80 hours a week, put 80 hours in a week, okay? This is just for how many hours you plan on having your shop operating for. I'm going to keep it at 40 because I'm not trying to burn you guys out. Total hours per number of weeks. So we have 40 hours times 13 weeks. That's 520 hours. We have 520 hours to divide our $19,800 into. Okay. Number of shop employees. If you are the only shop employee, make this 1. If you have 2 guys, 3 guys, 5 guys, it doesn't matter. This changes other things, right? We're only modifying this color. So if you're the only guy, just make it 1 for now. So when I talk about multiplying hands, this is what I mean, right? Right here, we have 1 employee and it says we have 520 hours. Say we have 2 guys. Now our shop has the ability to operate for 1,040 hours per quarter. Okay, this is what I talk about by multiplying hands. We are multiplying our hands by doing this. But for right now, 1 guy. Your efficiency percentage is the amount of billable hours. There might be 40 hours in a work week, but you're not charging your client for lunch. You're not charging your client for you to sweep the floor. You're not charging your client to go pick up material. Like you are, but your hands aren't on the tools during these hours, right? So you not all the hours, sorry. Not every hour you work in your day, you can bill out to your client. So this is what we call an efficiency rating. And there is instructions right here. If your employee is paid for 40 hours but only spends 36 hours on a job, they're utilizing 90% of their paid time productively. The remaining 4 hours are idle time, which still costs you money. So we still have to include this in here. Keep in mind that activities like bathroom breaks, loading and unloading trucks, and cleaning the shop all contribute to inefficiencies. To improve, factor these inefficiencies into your pricing to maintain profitability. Use the efficiency score calculator to figure out this percentage out. We're going to go over that in a second. So just leave it at what it is for right now. This will change. Your efficiency will change the amount of billable hours. This was the biggest game changer when I was figuring out my pricing calculator over the years. Okay. We're going to go over this right now. Actually, we're going to go into the efficiency calculator. So it's in the bottom tab here. So we get the budget homework, the hourly rate pricing calculator, and your efficiency score. Okay. Number of payroll for the last quarter. Right now, in our pricing calculator, we are saying that we're going to pay ourselves $500 a month, $1,500 a quarter. Okay. That is to cover the groceries that we used in our budget homework. Okay. That price, you can make that whatever number you want. But for right now, this is $1,500. If you're running a team of guys and you have payroll and your wages end up being $15,000 a month, like mine was, you can add that in there. For right now, we're just making it $1,500, right? The amount of weeks in a quarter is 13. The amount of hours we're working per week is 40, meaning we're going to have 520 hours to divide into, okay? Number of shop employees producing, we are one guy, so we're going to make this one. And then the total hours to be paid out is 520. If we had two employees, it would be 1040. This is where it gets very interesting, okay? So if we have a 45-minute lunch, that's 0.75. If we have a half-hour morning meeting, which I very much think you should be doing, if you're spending 1 hour unloading and loading up trucks with materials and things like that, write it in here. If you're taking, 25-minute bathroom break every day, which is normal, it means that you are losing 2.5 hours daily, 12.5 hours weekly, and 162.5 hours a quarter. This is craziness. Okay, this adds up very quickly. And this means that 31.25% of our days are being used for doing other things that is not billable, right? You can't bill your client for a bathroom break, but this is why this makes sense. So I have other in here. So if you guys, say you spend, you're the only shop employee right now, and you spend the first 2 hours of every day doing social media posts, calling clients, doing follow-ups, quoting projects, you can add 2, right? So that just brought our efficiency down to 43.75%. That's okay as a single employee, right? That means that we're building under 50% of our time, and we are working on getting more work, and we're working on building up the business and things like that. So make this work for you guys, right? If you take, if you need an hour bathroom break every day, change that. You can modify these things. So this is going to give us a 68.75% efficiency score in the shop. So use this and check it often, right? Go through this. Be like, how much time am I giving my guys for lunch? We did paid lunches. That's why this is like this. My guys didn't punch out for lunch. We paid them for lunch. Okay, so you take this efficiency rate, which is up here, the efficiency score, 68.75, and we're going to bring it over here, 68.75. I just added that in there. It rounded it up to 69%. That means that the hours we actually spent working on the project is 357 out of the 520 hours that we have to be paying for. This gets very interesting when you have employees, because this number gets very big very fast, and you're paying for every hour your employees are there, regardless of if they're working or not. So this is why this efficiency score is so important. So now instead of the 520, we have 357 hours to divide our overhead by, okay? So our hours actually spent working on projects, 357.5 hours. Total quarterly operating expense to divide into shop hours, 19,008, meaning our shop rate is $55.38. That, for a single employee, is a little bit on the low end, right? Like, you got to understand that there is industry standards. $53 per hour is a little bit on the low side, but don't stop this from you building a portfolio. If it's going to be $55.38 an hour and you're okay with only making a 10% margin, that's okay. You can always go back and change this, right? Say you wanted to make more money. You wanted a 30% profit margin. Your shop rate just went up to 65.45 per hour. This is very important. You can change this, and you can modify this by changing certain numbers. Say you want to take $3,000 a month home, a quarter home instead. That changes it again. See, at $70.91 per hour, I still think that's a very competitive rate. So you can change this to make this fit for you, right? And then all this is doing is making sure that you are covering your ass. This is most important, that you understand this is covering your ass. This is not for the client. If you charge essentially $71 per hour. All your bills will be paid. You'll have a salary to take home. You'll have a tool allowance paid for, and you'll have a profit margin, which you want to make sure that you are showing. Profit margin and your salary are two different things. They are not one and the same. Do not treat them the same. The bank will want to see profit margin, not your salary. Okay, so here's an example of something. This is not how to price projects. This is just for your hourly rate. So the monthly amount of hours to be sold needed to cover overhead is 119 per month. So you need to sell 119 hours per month to make sure that you are covering this. If you sell 4 projects at 30 hours each, you will cover all of this and you will create a profit if you stick to this. But you have to stick to your hourly rate. Okay, you have to stick to your tool allowance. You have to stick to what you're taking home. But if you sell 4 projects at 30 hours each per month, you will hit this and you will have a profit to show. You will have salary to pay. You will have a tool allowance. It'll be amazing. It'll start to change your life. So here is an example of how to actually use the hourly pricing calculator to price out a project, making sure that the materials are no more than 30%, which is what I always teach. Materials should never be more than 30% if you can help it. Sometimes it doesn't make sense, but we're going to aim for it. If $500 is the actual cost of materials to the project, this includes outsourcing. So if you're paying on outsourcing finishing, metal shop, powder coating, glass, installation, whatever it is, that has to be included in here. At 30% markup, which is what I always suggest, materials plus markup will equal $650. This is the cost of materials charged to the client, right? So if it's going to cost $500 to the client, it's going to cost $650. If you need 12 hours to do this particular job, it will total you $850 in hourly rate, the labor cost. So $850 is going to go to labor cost, $650 is going to go to material cost, making the project $1,500, the total job cost to the client of the project. Okay, that's cool. That's step one. 450.27 is 30% of the project cost. If materials need to be under 30% of your project cost, 450.27 needs to be higher than the actual cost of materials, which is this. So right now, 30% is lower than the actual cost of materials. We want to make sure that it is not happening. Okay. So if it's not, add more hours to the job or add the difference and make the materials 30% of the cost or lower. If you do this, you'll cover your butt. You always want to be covering your butt. Okay. So a couple ways you can do this. If 30% is lower than the actual material cost, the $500 is the actual material cost. If it's lower, if 30% is lower, you have to bump it up. So you can do that by, you can add a higher markup. My favorite thing is to just add hours to the job. So if I need 12 hours to do this project, I'm going to call it 15 hours to do this project. And it turned this little square green here, but it actually made the price of the 30%, it made it higher than what the actual cost is going to be. So now it's at 514. So 30% of my entire project cost, which is now 1713, means that 30% is going to be 514, which means my material costs are below 30%. We want our material costs to be below 30%. So this is how I use this. Let me know if you guys have questions. Play around with this and only modify these yellow squares. If you're confused, reach out to me, guys. I want to see you guys have success with this. Every quarter, go over this, copy and duplicate your hourly rate pricing calculator. Now you can do it every quarter and you can see if your hourly rate is going up or down throughout the year. Let me know if you guys need some help with this. Love you guys. Thank you.